Right now, somewhere in your city, someone is lying on their bathroom floor. Not sick, not hurt, just left. And the thing they're feeling, that hollowed out, can't breathe, nothing makes sense feeling, feels so enormous. It seems like it must be new. Like grief this specific must be a modern invention. Something that came with apartments and heartbreak playlists and the ability to watch someone move on in real time from the palm of your hand. It isn't. It is so old that your body treats it the same way it treats a broken bone. And the story of what happened the last time a human being lost their partner, before cities, before language had a word for it, before there was anywhere to go, is not the story you've been told.
Picture a camp on the edge of the African savanna, roughly 40,000 years ago. No walls, no doors, 12 people, maybe 15, sleeping within arm's reach of each other every night. A fire at the center, the darkness pressing in from every direction. 2 people in that camp have been together for years. They move through the world as a unit. They share food, share warmth, share the labor of staying alive. In a world where the margin between surviving and not is measured in calories and body heat, that bond is not romantic. It is structural. And then it ends. Maybe she leaves for someone else in the group. Maybe he stops coming back to the fire. In a camp of 15 people with nowhere to go, the separation isn't clean. There was no apartment to move out of, no city to relocate to. They are still sleeping 10 feet apart, every night, indefinitely.
Here's what the research says happened inside the body at that moment. Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran a series of landmark studies in the early 2000s using fMRI brain scans to map what happens when a person experiences social rejection. What she found stopped her lab cold. The brain region that fires during social rejection, the anterior cingulate cortex, is the exact same region that fires when you feel physical pain. Not a similar region, not a nearby one, the same one. Your brain does not distinguish between a snapped femur and a lost bond. Both register as damage. Both trigger the same emergency response. The body floods with cortisol. Sleep architecture collapses. Appetite disappears. Concentration fractures. In a world where those functions meant survival, losing them was not heartbreak. It was a medical emergency.
But here's the part nobody talks about. Your ancient ancestor didn't go through that alone in a locked room. Couldn't. The architecture of their world made isolation physically impossible. Robin Dunbar at Oxford spent decades mapping the social structure of hunter-gatherer bands. What he found was that humans evolved to process emotional crisis inside a group of approximately 150 people, what became known as Dunbar's number. Not because community felt nice, because the nervous system was built to require it. The tribe wasn't where you went after the loss. The tribe was the mechanism that metabolized it. Someone took over the food-sharing duties. Someone sat closer at the fire. The group quietly redistributed the labor that the bond had been carrying, without being asked, without a ceremony, without a word for what they were doing. The loss was real. The grief was real. But the body was never permitted to face it in silence.
There is evidence, buried in the archaeological record, that this was not passive. At sites across southern Africa and the Levant, researchers have found evidence of what some anthropologists call grief objects, small, deliberately shaped stones and shell beads found in burial contexts, some dating back over 70,000 years. Objects made by hand, kept close, placed with care. Francesco De Rico at the University of Bordeaux has argued that this kind of deliberate symbolic behavior, making a thing to carry a feeling, appears in the record long before any other marker of what we call civilization. Your ancestors were making meaning out of loss before they were farming, before they were building, before they had words. The grief came first. The symbol came almost immediately after. Not because they were processing something complicated, because the body demanded somewhere to put it.
And then, slowly, the firekeeping continued. This is the part that modern psychology keeps rediscovering and then losing again. James Pennebaker at the University of Texas spent years studying what happens to people who narrate their pain out loud versus those who carry it silently. Again and again, the results pointed in one direction. The people who spoke, who put words around what happened, who told the story to someone who listened, showed measurably lower cortisol levels, better immune function, faster return to baseline. They weren't talking to feel better. Their biology was completing a circuit the body had been trying to close since the separation happened. Your ancestor didn't have a therapist, didn't have a journal, didn't have a name for what they were doing when they sat at the fire and let the group hear what had happened. But the circuit closed anyway. The tribe listened. The cortisol dropped. The body, slowly, incompletely, imperfectly, started to repair. We have replaced every single piece of that system. The apartment replaced the camp. The locked door replaced the fire circle. The phone replaced the tribe. And the one thing we kept, the gut-level, bone-deep, neurologically measurable pain of losing a bond, we kept completely intact. Your anterior cingulate cortex does not know about privacy. It does not know about moving on. It does not know about the person you saw on their stories last night, looking fine, already somewhere new. It only knows one thing. You were connected. Now you aren't. And somewhere in the oldest part of you, the same alarm that rang 40,000 years ago in a camp on the African savannah is ringing right now. The system still works. We just dismantled everything it was built to run on.